Hi there and welcome. So I have these shoes sitting here in front of me because they were a little bit too big and they've just been sitting in the bottom of my closet for probably a few years now. So instead of just keeping them at the bottom of my closet for another 5 years, I decided that I'm going to paint these. So let's go ahead and get started with that. And I'm going to be using a Shuttle Art fabric paint here. It comes with 18 different colors. And I bought this back in March of 2025 for $20, but it is currently on sale for $17.76 if you're interested in that at all. And this kit also includes some little stencils that you could use, which I probably won't be using, but out of all of them, I do like this one. And it also comes with a little paint palette here. And this isn't sponsored or affiliated in any way. I just thought if you're interested in getting yourself some paint fabric, I feel like it's a pretty affordable option. And I also recently got myself some new paint brushes here. And these are by Nick Pro, which I got these off of Amazon as well for $21.99 for a 21-piece set. They do have other sets that have less brushes for a little cheaper, but I really wanted these ones because I loved the pastel colors, so I couldn't pass that up. And I also like that they come with some detailing brushes and dry brushes here. So I'm really excited to get to use these. Anyways, now I'm going to go ahead and start prepping my shoes. To do this, I'm going to paint them with gesso and then apply my tape all along the edges so that way I don't get paint on it. So let's go ahead and do that really fast. All right, here we are. The taping job isn't necessarily the best, but that's okay. It gets the job done. So I decided that I wanted to create a sunset on these shoes. So to do that, I'm going to apply pink, orange, and yellow with some white in between on a big flat brush. And I'm just going to keep brushing it until I get a nice blend. Now I need to create the opposite effect on the bottom portion of the shoe. So I'm going to do the same exact thing, but this time I'm going to make sure I flip my brush the other way so that way the yellows connect. Okay, so I would say that that's good enough. So you can see a little bit of the white peering through at the top, but that's okay because I am going to add some designs onto the shoe later on. But before we do that, let's go ahead and do the same process on the other shoe really quick. Also, I did want to discuss something with you all because I know that sometimes watching painting videos like this can be a little bit boring. So I thought maybe it would be a good idea to pre-plan for the next time that I do a similar video. And maybe we could do a Q&A just to give you something to listen to while watching the process of painting, since I know it takes a little while. So if you're interested in something like that, go ahead and drop some questions down below in the comments. That way I can save them for the next time. Anyways, now that the base layer is done, I'm gonna let it dry and then I'll go back in and start adding details and get the sides painted. Okay, so the first thing that I need to do is paint a line right in the middle where the yellow is, and that's gonna help give me a better guideline on where I want to put my mountains, so that way I can make sure that both shoes match. But before I do completely finish the mountains, I do need to go in and paint the sun because the mountains are gonna cover it since the sun will be sitting behind those. But yeah, I just need to figure out where I want them to be. I was kind of thinking right here, but I'm not really sure where the best spot would be. Part of me is kind of considering the middle, so that way both of the shoes have the sun on it. But at the same time, I think that might look weird with the gap since it's so big. Over here is more yellow, so it kind of makes sense. But I do like the way it's blended more on this shoe than the other one. So I think I would like to leave this side, and I'm just going to go ahead and add the sun onto the other shoe, and then I'll just brighten it up as I go. I'm also going to go in with white paint to sketch out my mountains to give me a better idea of how I want them to be placed. And I'm not going to go in with your basic browns and grays because I want to make these more fun and bright and bold. So I'm going to go in with pinks and orange and then use a bluish purplish shade for the shadow. And painting these mountains is going to be one of those where you're just going to have to trust the process because it is going to look a little strange at first, but the more you start to layer your paint and add texture to it, the more you'll be able to make out what they are. And I am actually going to go ahead and hold off on adding the rest of the blue shadowing to the other mountains because I feel like with the paint still being wet, it's really blending with the other two colors and making it look way too muddy. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish painting all of the orange and pink parts, and then I will give it some time to dry before going in and adding the rest of the shadows. So let's go ahead and let this dry. And I actually noticed a little too late that the side of the mountains that I painted with my orange and pink are where the shadows should actually go based off of where the sun would be shining. So yeah, now I'm gonna have to re-go back in, paint the other parts of the mountains here with my orange and pinks, and then let it dry again, and then I will be able to add in my shadowing before adding the rest of my layers. So let's go ahead and quickly do that. Okay, and now that I have the shadows on the correct side of the mountains, I'm now going to take that same color and apply small strokes of it throughout the pink and orange. And then I'm going to do the same thing by taking the pink and orange and applying the strokes throughout the blue. And it will look a little muddy at first, but as you continue to layer it, it'll brighten up. And then to create even more texture, I'm going to take lighter shades of all three of those colors and start layering them upon each other. And then I'm going to go in with my yellow, and I'm going to have the tips of the peaks to be the brightest yellow. And then as I work my way down, I'm going to spread out the yellow and apply a little bit less of it. And that's just going to give a really good sunset effect on these mountains. And now that I am done with this shoe, I am going to go ahead and do the other one off camera really fast. Okay, so for right here, I'm going to create a tree line. And to do that, I'm going to take my small brush here and I'm going to paint a straight line down. And then I'm going to create a bunch of Z shapes going back and forth. And you're going to start off thinner at the top and widen those strokes as you get towards the bottom. And I'm just going to quickly do that all the way to the other end. Okay, so I'm gonna have this be water down here. So the next thing I need to do is create a reflection of the trees. And to do that, I'm just taking that same exact color, but I'm also going to dilute it with water, giving it a much softer appearance. And now that I'm done with this shoe, I'm once again going to do the other shoe off camera really fast. Okay, and now I want to add some birds to these shoes. I'm not sure if I want to add them to both sides or just one. I think I'm going to add a few over here and maybe one on the other side just to kind of help them tie together a little better. And I just tried to use my smallest paintbrush that I could to make these birds. When you're making something on such a small scale, it is not easy. So I was a little nervous and shaky, but I feel like I did pretty good. And now the next step is to add some bushes and trees to the foreground. And I'm just going to use a sponge here and take some black paint and I'm going to dab it all over, and I feel like it gives it a really nice grassy texture. And then I'm going to go ahead and start adding in my trees. So right here, I was contemplating on whether or not I liked the size of that tree because I really didn't want to cover up too much of the water, but the tree just looked too little to me, so I ended up going in and fixing it. And then I carry on with the rest of the shoes. But I do go back to that tree and fix it off camera because I felt like the bottom needed to be a little wider. But yeah, now I'm just going to really quickly add some white highlights to the water. And then I decided that I thought it would be nice to add some clouds to the sky, but I was just not liking the way they were looking. I even tried taking a dry brush to try to blend it out and soften them up a little bit, but it just was not working for me. So I took some water to try to remove as much of them as I could, but I ended up having to repaint the sky a little bit. And then I ended up going in with a smaller brush and taking a yellow and white and creating a bunch of smaller clouds in the sky. And I felt like that was the right choice. I felt like it really gave me those sunset cloud vibes that I was really looking for. But yeah, we are officially done painting these shoes. So I'm gonna go ahead and let them dry, and then we'll be back to remove the tape. All right, now that they're all dry, we can go ahead and start removing this. And I am a little nervous because I don't want the tape to peel up any of the painting that I had just spent hours doing. So hopefully it all goes well. And it's okay if the paint got under the tape a little bit because we are going to be painting all of the edges and the sides here soon. Okay, now I'm just trying to decide on what color I want to paint these edges. I do feel like there is already a lot of orange and yellow on these, so I'm kind of thinking I'm gonna wanna go with pink. And then for the sides of the shoes, I think I'm gonna go with the same exact method that I used for the front. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a quick little prep. And as you can see, I gently applied some tape just to kind of cover the painting that I just did so I don't accidentally ruin it. But yeah, let's go ahead and take our 3 colors and start blending them all along the sides of the shoes. All right, so this is how they're looking so far. Now we just gotta go ahead and let them dry overnight. Now that they're all dry, we can go ahead and start removing the tape. And now we can finish painting the rest of this. And for the little stretchy pieces on the shoes, I'm not really sure what those are called. Those I'm gonna go ahead and paint orange. And then the edges I'm gonna finish off with pink. But for you, I'm gonna go ahead and jump straight to the glamour shots. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up as it really helps my small channel. And I appreciate you joining me, and I really hope to see you next time. Bye!